Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Hashi Talk. Today, we are going to talk about investigating Consul using Prometheus metrics and Prometheus based dashboards. Let me introduce the presenters to you. So, with me is Manuel Boira. He's a strategic partner solution architect from Sysdig. And I am Durgesh Shukla, a product marketer for the Ecosystems Alliances teams for Sysdig. Sysdig is a cybersecurity company, and we work really closely with HashiCorp and other cloud ecosystem partners so that we can secure your containers, cloud, and Kubernetes. So let's dive into the agenda. I'm going to talk about Consul and its use cases. I'm going to do a short introduction to Prometheus monitoring. This will include the metrics format, PromQL, and the dashboards. Then I will talk about what we can observe and troubleshoot with regards to Consul. We will talk about what good alerts we can set. And these alerts will also have a deep dive into the metrics and the alert based on PromQL. And we will then, at the end, see a short demo from Manuel, and he will dive into the typical dashboards that we can create for monitoring Consul. So what is Consul? So Consul is like a Swiss knife to answer multiple important questions related to your service networking. So it can answer questions like how do we set up network automation? What are the services running in the environment, and what type of environments do the services run on? Is the conversation between different services encrypted? Is there some sort of a mutual TLS encryption between the services? And what are the different elements that have access to different services? All of that can be tracked together with Consul. So the key use cases of Consul are service discovery, service mesh, mutual TLS encryption for services. Consul can also act as your API gateway. It can do dynamic load balancing and network automation. It is very useful for L7 traffic management and observability. Now let's look at Prometheus. So Prometheus was established at SoundCloud way back in 2012. And in 2016, it graduated from CNCF. It's a powerful monitoring and alerting system. It has a text-based metric format. It is truly multidimensional with regards to data and has a powerful query language based on SQL called PromQL. And to top it all off, Prometheus has an outstanding documentation maintained by the open source community. So now let's take a deeper dive into Prometheus concepts. So in front of me is the Prometheus metric notation. So I have the name of the metric itself, the labels, and the values of the labels. And I also have the cardinality at the end. So the metric name is HTTP request total, and the label name is method. And the label can have different values. And the cardinality of the metric can change as well. Now, so basically, the metric identifier is a unique combination of metric names and labels. Sample is a timestamp or value pair for a metric reading at any given point of time. And time series is a sequence of samples of the same metric ID. Now, with that background in mind, let's look at PromQL. So PromQL is the structured query language that can be used to play with Prometheus metrics. So you can have a simple metric like HTTPS request total, but then on top of it, you can use PromQL and build a customized metric, like a custom metric for some of the rate of HTTP total requests by status code. And now using this custom metric, you can feed these custom metrics into open source dashboards, such as one built on top of Grafana. So that theory out of the way, let's see what are the things that we want to troubleshoot for Consul? What are the things that we want to observe for Consul? So key areas to focus here are the latency, like how fast or slow the transactions are happening. Then leadership changes. So Consul is built on top of the Raft algorithm. So in the Consul control pane, there is one leader, and multiple followers, which are redundant to the leader. And these followers keep electing a leader between themselves from time to time. They do this based on the consensus between themselves. So you want to tap and you want to keep a tab on how are the leadership changes happening and how are the elections happening with regards to Consul. Then you want to also look at things like cache and garbage collection. which are related to the memory allocation with regards to Consul itself. And finally, you want to monitor the network load on the Consul servers and the Consul clients. So these are the key 4 areas to focus for Consul. Now let's first, to get started, first you need to enable Prometheus metrics. Now the great thing about Consul is it supports Prometheus metrics out of the box. It also supports some other type of metrics, such as the ones you can send to something like a Datadog. But with regards to Prometheus, you don't need any host name, because Prometheus can read this host name on its own by scraping it off from the Consul metrics. So you have to disable it when setting it up with a Prometheus-based metric solution for Consul. So now let's take a deeper dive into what alerts we can set for Consul. So I've actually reversed the order. First, we will look at the alerts, and then we will see how these alerts fit into the various dashboards that Manuel will show us. So first is the alerts for the leadership issues. So you can keep an alert for if there are too many elections for leadership. Then you can check if there are too many leadership changes. Now then, another important thing is the leader able to contact the followers, right? So you need to check for that as well, if that leader time to contact followers is too high. And finally, you want to also check if the restoration time is too high, which is basically what is the last oldest Raft oldest leader log age, and is this too high? So you want to keep an alert for that as well. Now let's talk about Consul latency issues. So here we want to monitor Consul transaction time and also Consul transaction counts. So we define a baseline and we contrast this with twice the amount of standard deviation from the baseline. And we do it over every hour, because transactions can go up and down depending on the what type of situation the Consul is handling. And so first alert is for Consul transaction time, and the second one is for the rate of the transactions. And all of this is measured for the with regards to the baseline for the past hour. Another thing that you can look at for Consul latency is the key value store update time. So are the key value stores being updated regularly, and what is the deviation from baseline is something you should keep a tab on. And finally, the commit time is also something that you can look at in your dashboard and also have an alert for it. So if it is deviating too much from the previous from the baseline over the previous hour, you should get an alert. Now let's talk about Consul memory allocation issues. So the Consul server should not use more memory than available, right? So if it is greater than 90% of the allocated memory, we should get an alert. And then garbage collection is something that causes stop the world pauses in Consul. Now these pauses should not exceed more than 2 seconds per minute for Consul. So that's why we should count this, and we should have an alert for the garbage collection pauses. Now let's talk about the network load issues. So the Consul RPC requests, which are remote procedure call requests, should not have any deviations over the baseline. And finally, not more than 10% of your Consul client RPC requests should fail. So you should have alert for both these things. There are many more alerts available, which are maintained on the open source website promcat.io by Sysdig. And you can download these alerts, not just for Sysdig, but for many other common applications available for the cloud native ecosystem. Manuel will also give a brief tour of this website at the end of his demo. Now let's talk about the typical Consul dashboard. So the first chart is, of course, related to the health and overview. We also show the transactions, the network related elements of the charts. We show the cache, and finally we show a chart related to the leadership within the Consul dashboard. So this is like an overview of the Consul dashboard. I have some screenshots, and of course, Manuel will dive deeper. So these are the screenshots. So this is a chart showing the overall health. And then there is another chart for the leadership, showing the leadership changes. There's also for Consul cache and garbage collection. And the final chart in the dashboard is for network activity. Now, all the charts that I showed you were built on top of Sysdig Monitor. You can build the same charts and dashboards on top of Grafana. And you can also reuse the same alerts in open source Grafana. So in our setup, we have used 90% open source element except the Sysdig metric store. So Sysdig metrics, why we have used the Sysdig metrics store is just for convenience, and it allows for many more metrics beyond just the Prometheus metrics. So we can add stats D and JMX metrics, Kubernetes metrics, and custom metrics all in one place. That's why we have used Sysdig metric store, but you can directly connect your Grafana to your Prometheus metrics and visualize all these alerts and visualize all these metrics. So now I will pass the baton on to my colleague Manuel Boira, who will give us a short demo. Manuel, on
All
to
right.
you.
Thank you, Durgesh. Let me share my screen. Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Manuel Boira, and today I'm going to show you how these Prometheus metrics and others looks like in a working environment. We are going to use Sysdig Monitor, that is the platform brought by Sysdig for observability, but you can use any open source tool like, for example, Grafana. For this session, we have prepared, as you can see here, a Kubernetes cluster where we have installed Consul with the parameters on by Durgesh to expose the metrics and collect them with the Sysdig instrumentation, the Sysdig agent that has been installed also together with the appropriate configuration to ingest these key metrics that we are going to show you right now. Together with these workloads, we install a dummy application called HashiCorp that will generate the events to populate our dashboards and illustrate the value of this monitoring solution. We have forward the Consul server. So let's see here in action. He's alive. He is real. Okay, we have our Kubernetes cluster has 4 nodes, 1 control plane and 3 worker nodes, and our Consul server contains three nodes. Okay, 3 servers. All right. So this is the Sysdig dedicated dashboard for Consul. This is automate in Sysdig, auto-generated when Consul is detected. And let's do a quick walkthrough. This is the health panel to show an overall status. The second panel is dedicated to the leadership, as we know that the servers are in a continuous negotiation. Then we have another panel with the transaction timings, also the network activity, and the last 2 panels are dedicated to memory. They are one for the cache and the other for garbage collection. That said, let me get back to the console and let's delete some Consul servers. As we can see here, the fault tolerance is 1. So that means that we can lose 1 of the servers without disrupting the service. Okay, let's delete a couple of them. Okay, so we can see the result in our dashboards. So let me delete 1. Okay. Here, 1, yes, and also a second Consul pod. Okay, so the Kubernetes scheduler is automatically taking care of these services, and we will see in our overall status panel, the health panel, the result. In the meantime, let me describe it. We have the big green flag, which is mandatory. Okay, let me show you the queries in detail. We are collecting this Consul autopilot healthy metric and exposing here the result of the status. We should see the changes. Oh, there we go. Now the cluster has been turned into unhealthy. Okay, if we change the timing, we can see that this happened several times in the past hours. Okay, because we have been playing around with the number of servers. Another metric that we have here is the license expiry. In case you are using, you will be using the commercial license, the commercial version, and the snapshot restoration, taking care about this snapshot time. Now about the leadership, the important metrics, as Durgesh described before, are the last contact leader, time to contact the leader from the followers. If this time rises, or the election events, the number of election events rises, could mean that we may be facing network issues. Let's go to the next panel. Of course, we are monitoring the key value store time, transaction operation time. The network activity is mandatory to have an eye on the network health. In this case, we have charts, independent charts for the client and servers. So if we detect disruption, we could try to distinguish if the errors are happening in the whole cluster at cluster level, or only in the application layer in the clients consuming Consul services, or in the servers. We can see, for example, the kind of queries. Here we are checking the rate, Consul client, remote procedure calls in a determined cluster, and namespace, code name in case in a given interval. By the way, one important feature is the alerting. So let's find an interesting metric that we may want to track if we want to trigger an alert. You may be wondering, what is this bar here near to the charts? It is the Sysdig event overlay feature. It's a very specific feature brought by Sysdig that allows you to see the events that happen in the system when a determined peak or chart trend happen, so that you can correlate and make a better analysis. Okay, so let's imagine that we can set an alert on the rough commit time. Okay, we can in Sysdig, we can go to the library and use one of the predefined templates. Okay, sorry. Okay, here. It is loading. Okay, done. Okay, but we have created this one to make it faster. This alert wants to warn us when the rough commit time turns anomalous. Okay, anomalous. So what we will be doing is to compare the average rate of the rough time commit time, rough commit time sum against the average over time of the same rate plus 2 times the standard deviation over time. If that happens, means that the current rate is too high compared with this average over time, this context, and we will be triggering this alert. We can configure the alert to be triggered via one of the channels, Slack, PagerDuty. In this example, we choose a Google chat channel prepare for the example. Okay, and the last two panels are dedicated to the memory. They are quite critical also. The garbage collection, for example, that will indicate if this operation that is blocking when this operation happens, it blocks other important tasks, and if it takes longer than expected, it can lead to important issues. So it's important to check that this post time is the normal and the expected time via this query. And that is pretty much it. I would like also to tell you that the important thing from here are the metrics, the alerts, the formulas, and all of them are available in the promcat.io portal that is supported by Sysdig, but also by the wide community. And here you can find exactly the same items that we have been describing, okay, with information, setup, guidelines, and all the set of alerts ready to be configured. And that is pretty much it. So I hope you found this useful. Thank you for joining us. We are Sysdig. We trust in observability and security from source to run. Bye-bye.